Hello, everybody. Welcome into Off the Post EU RLCS post game show. Joined as always by me and Cam, and today we have a special guest, ApparentlyJack. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing good. Interesting EU weekend this week as we saw Oxygen Esports take home the W for Europe. New team for Oxygen as Nor going back to Europe. Story is Oli and Archie, and damn, they look pretty good. I don't know. It was like it felt almost like a cakewalk for them. I don't know if you guys felt that way, but I felt like when I was
Mhm.
watching it that even when they lost, they really just beat themselves. Stomping.
Yeah, they really didn't have any problems after that little hiccup in Swiss where they went to game 5 with Aogiri and lost. After that, it was 3-0 Endpoint, 3-0 Liquid, 3-1 Monkeys. Like nobody took them to max games after that. And the farthest in the best of 7 was 4-2. Oxygen just figured something out and they look like easily the fastest team in Europe right now. It's actually crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, from what I saw, like, G1 in the quarterfinals actually looked like the hardest match for me overall. Other than that, they just kind of
Yeah.
ran for everyone.
Well, when I was casting Oxygen's game this week, they struggled against Aguirre as well, which is another Spanish team. I don't know if there's like something in the water in the Spanish team where they go up against Oxygen and it's like really difficult. But it seemed like they just stacked the net really hard. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. But they did look comfortable, so it was a pretty easy win for them.
Yeah, the G1 set, they had 4 overtimes, 2 of which went over 3 minutes. So
Mm.
I honestly I think G1 probably go further in the bracket if they don't draw Oxygen.
Yeah.
And personally, I am guilty of underrating G1 really heavily. But after watching their games, they've definitely won me over. I just thought, oh, they're not going to be they're like a top 8 team at best, but like they easily look like a top 4 team. They just drew Oxygen.
Yeah. I had G1 in like top 8 range, but like I don't know. I don't even know what my team rankings go with EU at the moment. It's a bit crazy.
It's that EU depth, you can never truly predict.
Yeah,
It's already out. You depth, right?
that's
I had to
that's
say
the
it.
buzzword.
That's the buzzword for today.
Yeah.
Lots of EU depth. Do you guys think Oxygen was going to be this dominant right from the beginning when you heard about the team? Just like for me, it just feels like their play style. I don't know if you guys feel this way. It reminds me of kind of like a meta coming back where the passing is a lot more heavy. And I don't know if it's going to be just Oxygen style right now in Europe, but it seems like that's what's dominating right now. And like if that seems to be towards the trend is now that people are kind of starting to default towards protecting the net. Now the middle of the field's open, so a lot more passing is going to happen. Or do you think that's just a play style thing working for?
Um, I think that they definitely pass quite a lot. I think it's because they're so talented individually. It's probably that teams are giving them a lot more space in the midfield because they're trying to cover the player. Because they can just do it all by themselves. Like every single one of them can just go the whole way. And I think it's just going to be quite naturally a pass-heavy team, just because you can tell they're all really excited to play with each other, and that's going to lead to usually more team plays at the start for a team. Um, and I actually did think that I predicted them to win Regional One. I did predict them to win this one, so I guess
Okay.
I'm a prophet. So
You're on track.
exactly, yeah. But yeah, I think I don't know if it's a meta thing or a place. I think I'm just leaning more towards that's just Oxygen's play style right now, and they're just doing it very well. They're just like too good right now.
Yeah, there's so much individual skill on Oxygen, and I think it's kind of just the way Rocket League is moving is players with lots of individual talent keep the ball close and give
Right.
themselves options. So the defense needs to be reading what's happening, so they have to give up space because of how much threat this individual player on the ball is generating, and they can't cover the entire field. So the person on the ball gets to choose if they want to solo it, if they want to try to get it to open space for their teammate, if they'd rather just drop the ball and take the opportunity to grab boost or bump or something. But I mean, I thought Oxygen would be good, but I actually, and this is a massive L. Oh, I was like, well, BDS will just dominate Europe again. They'll be fine, and then they lose in Game 7 to Quadrant.
I mean,
That
I'm
was a
gonna be
shock to me.
Yeah, I will be like, because I think BDS will be back for regional too. I think their coach Mew will get them to be working very hard over the next 2 weeks, and I'm going to be interested to see a Peak Oxygen who have a lot of confidence from winning the first regional against on form BDS. I think BDS can still be the best, but Oxygen are definitely going to be, the one challenging them. Perhaps Oxygen are going to do a Moist and just be, the better team for most of the season, like Moist were last season, in my opinion. So who knows?
I think
Hey,
the big thing right now that is a question mark for longevity on Oxygen has to be if they all just stay grinding the game, right? That's always been the question that's surrounding this Oxygen. And, well,
Well, they
the
won the
players on the
regional with
team.
Archie on 20 hours.
Archie's on
Yeah,
20 hours.
Yeah,
tweeted about it too. And it was like,
Wow.
which I
holy
don't know
fuck.
how,
That's the sweet spot
because
for him, I guess.
I don't know how he's even got to that low of hours, because if they're scrimming 2 hours a day, which is, common for European teams, then that's at least, like if they have, let's say, even if they had weekends off, that's 20 hours already. So I guess he's just doing nothing extra, but it's working. So, oh, he was on 60, so Archie's lying.
No, he's baiting. He's farming.
60
Oh,
is
right.
still low, I think. At
No,
least. Like,
I think 60 is like like most pros actually have 60, I think, or like 70 maybe.
do you think that's low?
Um,
Like for your own personal? Because when I played, I felt like I needed to be on like 80, or else I
Jaxo,
felt.
Jaxo 120 past 2. I just know it.
yeah. At the moment, I'm on 120. Actually, I think I've dropped to like 110 right now, or maybe like a bit lower, because the last 2 days I've took a bit of a break over the weekend. But I've been on 120 for like the last regional, or the first regional this season. I think like anything above 100 for me is where my peak is. But most of last season I was on 85 to 95. With some parts of the season, I went down to about 60, if not like 50. So, but I think my peak is at 100 or a bit higher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that seems about normal. Like 50 hours is probably the minimum I would want. Like if I was still playing, I'd be like, okay, you got to at least have 50 hours in the week. Like I need to see you in my ranked games outside of scrims.
There's also a difference between like JNaps having 60 hours and someone like Bo having 60 hours. Or do you guys think it's the
There's
same?
something to
Like,
it. Nah, there
it's
is
like
something to it,
JNaps has been
because,
around forever.
and he's doing it consistently. Like he's putting in the exact same hours almost like every week. So it's
Yeah,
like there's definitely something to that. Doing the same thing week in, week out for a long time, being at the top. Like he's got a routine, and he's sticking to it because it's working and it has worked.
exactly. That's why I was like, I think if you have a player who's a veteran who has on 60 hours, it's a little bit different. Someone or someone who's proven, I guess, is a little
Right.
different way to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I think First Killer was on 40 hours for the regional, and he hard peaked. I think Mist was on like 30 or 40. It's just all these naturally talented players. They're just too good, aren't they? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
it
get their
really
scrims
is.
and that's it. That's all they need.
Yeah.
That and a little bit of confidence, and they'll just go out on the pitch and dominate.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we don't think Oxygen are just having a quick honeymoon for the first regional, and this is going to be a continued trend of Oxygen being potentially the best team in Europe.
Yeah, because you have
Yeah.
Archie and Yoris on a team, and Yoris looks like the best player in the world. I mean, he's looking like at least top three right now. I mean, he's and I think Archie's always going to be able to like enable Yoris a bit, and he's always thought of that himself. And they were past teammates. Oli's definitely no slouch. Oli's a very underrated player that's been having potential for a long time to be on a top team, and now he's finally got the chance. Um, and their coach fits in with the team really well. So I just think this is going to be they're going to be a top two team for the season, or for the split at least.
Yeah, I think my concern is the play style, kind of, just from coming from when I was a player playing super pass heavy. Times have obviously changed, but like it got to a point where you can almost guess who's passing on the team and who's not, and you can kind of like after overtime. At first, it's kind of alarming to you. Then over time, its teams play each other more and you get used to it. I think that maybe is a concern with pass heavy, but again, they're also individually talented. That I think, um,
Right.
That's something to consider, at least, I think. But I also think Europe is kind of in this state where it's like old NA, where it seems like the big three for me right now, which is Oxygen, Carmine, and BDS. I don't really, for me, I don't have Moist up in that tier.
Really?
Um, yeah, I think old Moist I would have had them there, but current Moist, I just think that they don't seem to have the same firepower behind them that they had when the team. And I know that they're new, and I can move them up a tier, but for right now, I don't think I'd have them.
So they would have
Yeah.
had to beat Carmine for you to have them
I,
up
I
there. That,
just
yeah.
I think they've just had a bad day, and they've had a series where it's a lot of pressure on the series. Let's be honest, it's
Yeah.
Vatira versus Moist, it's Rise and Joy wanting to beat their old teammates, it's Case Azure wanting to beat his old teammate and Carmine, and it's like I just think that it got to them a bit. I think that they'll be fine. Um, I don't know. I also don't like the whole big three thing as well because there's always going to be like teams that are better. There's always just going to be that like clear difference between team levels. It doesn't necessarily mean like the region's struggling as a whole, or that there's
Oh
no other
yeah,
teams
no,
that could
no.
do it. But I don't know. We'll see. It could change next regional. Who knows?
Yeah, for
Yeah, I
me,
think
more
Liquid
of
need to
the
do better as well. There's that team has so much potential, and only being top 8, I think, is a bit low for them.
Mm,
yeah, more what I mean by a top three to me is like teams I expect to see in the semifinals on a
right.
regular basis. Not
Ah,
that they
okay. Yeah.
can't be upset, I guess I should clarify because it's not like the big three where it's just one of them or that's it. It's more like I
Yeah.
expect these teams to be the consistent throughout the whole year. And for me, unless I'll give Moist time, of course, but for right now, I just don't think that they're in that. I
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah.
see them
That's
winning a
fair.
grand final right.
No, that's fair
Um,
enough. Yeah. I mean, you always have to base like when you're doing like rankings, especially after just the first regional, you don't have much to go off. So that's a fair assessment, really.
yeah, it's super tough in the beginning. Get like a lot of information on exactly what's going on, but from what we have, I think talk about Carmine now a little bit, just because we've talked
Mhm.
about auction and Carmine did come in. Obviously, the huge move from Vatira this offseason was the big conversation piece in Europe. So Cam, what did you think? Obviously, he played his old team. I think it was a bit like Jack said. I think it's a bit unfair for the only example, but for the fans, obviously, I'm under attack by the way from the French army right now on Twitter because
Well,
I
What did
pulled
you
up
say on Twitter? Yeah.
my exact tweet was Moist number one seed after their best player. I did quotations, their best player left.
oh
And
no.
all the KC fans were just like spamming me this week. I'm an idiot and now I suck and all.
Yeah. I mean, I tweeted that after KC beat Moist, that I put KC kickoff merchants fraud win in my books. So I'm gonna
That's
have a
what I
bunch
was
of
gonna
KC
say.
fans. Yeah, I'm gonna have a bunch of the French attack. Yeah.
You guys get the opportunity to farm now, though. I stayed neutral, and this morning I just asked people who they thought would win between Moist Carmine, and the poll was like 75% Moist, and the only reply is someone going, "Yo, you're sleeping on KC, the blue wall, this, that, this, that." And I'm like, great, here we go.
Yeah.
I do think
Yeah.
they have the chance to be really good. I mean, Vatira is
I agree.
obviously exceptional. Itachi has been good for a long time, and Exotic's like a question mark, where he can like pendulum swing really high, right? I don't really know
Yeah.
his ceiling or his floor, I should say, but I think
Yeah.
they have the building blocks.
Yeah.
I just think I think Vatira looks comfortable. I think that team and they can do some damage. I thought they were gonna win the final. I'm not gonna lie, because
I kind of did. A part of me did. Because they beat Moist in the semis, and Moist are like a mechanical, like fast team, right? And I thought Oxygen were going to be the same, but Oxygen shut them out more. I did say if Yoris was playing well, I think Oxygen win, and Yoris was definitely playing well. So, but
yeah.
K Corp, I mean, like they have all the parts to like the best team in the world, so that they could be easily. And they looked really, I think like people are going to be understating how good they looked in the semis. I think they looked like really, really good. They were just controlling the pace of the game like incredibly well.
That's a lot of the discussion that was happening post Worlds when we found out that the Moist roster, like that Vatira was leaving that roster. The question was, Is Vatira making the right move? Is his new like roster going to be stronger? He's obviously justified that, at least this regional, that he made maybe the correct choice. But the hypothetical that is on my mind that I'd love to ask you guys is, if Vatira was still on Moist, would they be able to beat this Oxygen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's difficult to it's difficult to ever see a team that was. I don't think people like quite grasp how good Moist were last season. Like they were the better team for the whole season than BDS in my eyes. Like they came second at a major, first at a major, top 8 worlds, but they were so good online. Like I don't know. For me, they were just unreal. And they were so fun to watch, which perhaps I get a bit of bias from. But I just think they could have beaten anyone. You can throw any team this season and they could beat them. Like they're just the synergy that team had was nuts.
Yeah, I pretty much feel the same way. I don't mean to like just insta agree with Jack, but like I felt the same way. I thought Moist were super interesting to watch. Really love them, and I also think that just Hero was a really nice glue to what Rise and Joyo bring. I don't think Astral has quite the same cohesion as Vatira does.
No.
Maybe not yet. I don't know. They might just need more time, but because Vatira's shoes are pretty hard to fill this quickly, even for someone like Astral.
But at the same time, you got like the way the team came up is that they all came up together. Like they all improved together at the same time. It was their first top team, all of them together. Like that's quite important. Like they all had the same road, So I think that was important. Whereas Astral, the team dynamic is just going to be different.
Yeah, it's weird to me for think that Astral is more of like a veteran player these days. God, I'm feeling so old. I'm getting gray hair saying Astral's a veteran.
Yeah.
Astral also just plays different. I feel like maybe my EU knowledge is not as good as my NA, but I feel like Astral's more of an aggressive type playstyle. Maybe it's changed since the past, but I feel like Vatira is almost the opposite, where Vatira's pick and choose when
I agree, yeah.
And I feel like that type of difference is going to take a lot for Rise and Joyo to change. So
yeah,
can they get there? I don't know, because it's tough. I just think Astral's playstyle is just not what they needed. Even though I think they're all talented and they can, like instantly off the bat, I can see why they're struggling because it doesn't just add up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but at the same time, like I don't know, we've not seen a lot of them. Like we haven't seen a lot of them, but I mean, if we just go to like Wikipedia, in the top 16 qual they went 3-1. He lost to Resolve, Solary, Liquid. So pretty good, like pretty good for their standard. Maybe like not the best, but like still amazing. And then in the Swiss they went 3-0. They did have
those were shaky games though.
They were shaky games.
They were down a goal with 30 seconds left, and Astral would like 1v3 to tie it, and then they'd win an OT.
Yeah, they 3-1 Quadrant, who weren't actually looking like that good because it was just the first round of Swiss, right? Like this wasn't when they found their form, I feel like. And then they 3-2 Sonic, 3-2 Aogiri, so they had close series. So you are right, I guess. What was their quarters of this? Who they played in the
Liquid.
Right, they
Liquid.
They 4-2'd Liquid. With Liquids, they could be perhaps having a couple issues. So I guess you are right. I thought that Moist did have a better tournament than I guess they did, like in terms of results. But I again think that they can very, very easily bring it back. Like they're not in a bad position to make the major. They're in a they're in a very, very good position. And I think that all these teams are just new. That's what it is.
Yeah, it'll take some time for play styles to develop. I mean, it took Carmine, the old Astral Itachi Noli roster to develop. It took them a lot of time to like find their form, to become the world's contender that they were. So who knows? Maybe Astral just needs a little bit more time. And Moist, I mean, still the semifinals is for how stacked Europe is this time around this season. Top 4 is great, especially with the first regional.
Yeah,
and we talked about this last week on the show, but the teams that made top 8 just get to start this snowball of auto qualifying for all these regionals. They don't have to go through closed anymore. No more opens. They're guaranteed points that other teams that didn't make top 8 are not guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. Well, you make top 8 in the first regional. You actually qualify for the for the next 2 regionals. Not even just the next one anymore. So that's like very important because of the invitational third regional. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I also
Yeah, maybe we'll finally get BDS G1. That was the semi I wanted. I wanted Moist Carmine BDS G1, just ultimate grudge match
Yeah.
semifinals.
I was cheering for Mark. It was weird because like I just want Mark to do well just because of the whole situation happened. I really feel for him, even if it was right. I don't know. It still is just hard to see a player put in all that time, all the effort, all that winning. Kind of like the Moist situation, but Vatira chose to leave, whereas Mark kind of just got benched.
Yeah. It was inevitable. I mean, I think if people didn't see it, you know, it was always inevitable. But it is rough. I think he'll do well. I think that I don't know. Do you guys think G1 make the major?
I would
I
put
think
them
so.
above the 3 other teams that were in the top 8, if that's
Who else was
weaseling
it?
around the
Yeah,
question.
Liquid.
Tundra
Who
and
else was top 8?
Quadrant.
Tundra,
No,
Quadrant,
Quadrant went top 4.
Yeah. No, but I mean,
beating
like, of all.
BDS.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
of all the
I
teams
guess
that.
BDS went top. Yeah, I forgot about BDS. Yeah, so you'd still put BDS in your top 4, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to, don't you?
I think
Yeah.
BDS are just so good. Like,
Yeah.
when like in a world championship scenario, I just have to give BDS the nod. Or any like high pressure scenario, I just never count them out. Kind of like that team that I always think can just put it together despite what's happened to them.
Right, yeah.
I'm also terrified of the French teams. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I'd put G1 as like the best out of the court. I mean, their quarters against Oxygen, they looked really good. They looked good against BDS in the Swiss, I think it was, or something like that. So yeah, I think I don't know. Europe's so stacked, so I don't even know who makes major.
So does Europe have 4 spots or 5?
5.
Okay. So if there are 5 spots, I think I would put G1 in the 5th.
Yeah,
I think
100%.
I think I go Oxygen and K Corp, and then
Yeah.
I think BDS. Who did Oxygen beat in? Oh no, Moist lost to K Corp. I think BDS, Moist, and then it's so difficult.
Then it's like between Liquid and G1, right?
Well,
Quadrant
Quadrant,
too.
because they have a top. They're a good team. Like
Do you think they'll be able to hold it?
But it doesn't matter if they hold it. Like they don't have to replicate the top 4. They just have to make 2 top 8s, I think. And I think they can do that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think they can do that.
I think
The teams that missed out.
I would put Quadrant or G1 in
Yeah,
that
so if
spot.
we look at teams that missed out, top 8, are there any, like, Ugiri, do you put above Quadrant? I don't think so.
Absolutely not.
Monkeys, no. Sonics,
There's no one that
no.
didn't qual that you'd put above Quadrant
I
realistically.
think
I
Williams
think-
is good.
Yeah. No, Williams is good, but what did they go? 1 and 3 or 2 and 3?
Yeah,
1 and 3.
I'm surprised.
1 and
they
3.
had that
1 and 3 is difficult to pull back from, I think. You could, but you have to do like top 2, like top 4 at a push, and top 8 could squeak you in. I don't know, but like, my top 5 is going to be Carbine, Oxygen, BDS, Moist, and either Quadrant or G1. I'll go with Quadrant because they have the upper hand with the points.
Yeah, it's a really, really good start to the snowball for them.
Yeah,
But
I think I do lean G1 over Quadrant, just because
that's fair.
I think their play style is a bit more chaotic, so maybe that helps them. I feel like Quadrant can be limited at times, and I don't know how to just back that with evidence, but just visually, it seems like maybe they struggle at the top level, but it could just be early.
yeah, there's just no Team
also
Liquid
just-
faith.
Well, the
It's all
thing
gone.
is with Liquid is that like I think they can pull it back, but like we are. If you're looking at results, they haven't looked great.
Yeah, they had to go to round 5 in Swiss, didn't they?
Like Vert says, you don't get what I'm saying, but they went to round 5 twice. Like they haven't looked amazing. Like I think that they can, but I think G1 and Quadrant they've been better this regional. They have been better. That's not a that's not a wrong statement. I don't see how that could ever be a wrong statement. G1 and both G1 and Quadrant have been better. So I think
Yeah,
that
for sure.
and Quadrant have the point advantage. So I think that that's very important. I think they hold it.
I
I think
also think
Quadrant holds
Liquid
it.
are made up of 3 players who are quite young, and maybe that type of calming presence isn't there for them in these scenarios, like having a player like Urias on your team, or no, maybe that's a factor. I don't know. There's just something with Liquid that I can't just put my faith behind yet. I need to see a little bit more to concisely be like, okay, yeah, no, I can see them, getting in the semifinals. Right now, I can't see that.
And someone says, didn't Quadrant go round 5 3 times? But they have the point advantage. Like like top 8 to top 4 is big this split. Like this season, I mean, because the way the points have changed.
Yeah.
If I'm not wrong, it is now. Is it? Yeah, I think so. So it's now like heavily favoring making top 4 over top 8. I think more than last season. Like that is a big thing now. If I'm not wrong, I could be wrong, but
Yeah, because the point
I'm
totals
weighing
have been
that highly.
squished.
Like,
They're a lot smaller now. Like
yeah,
Oxygen has 20 points and like BDS has 10.
right, yeah. I mean, yeah, you get 16 for first, and then they get the other 4 for the 20s because they qualified for the other 2 regionals. But like the jump from 5th to 8th to 3rd to 4th is from 6 to 9 points, which is the equivalent. You get actually no, so I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about 3rd and 4th being more, but I'm pretty sure one of the like mods said that, or I think I heard Gibbs say that. I think it was so like I
Or
don't
you're
know.
talking about how significantly more, right?
Yeah, I just think Quadrant are holding it. I do believe in them.
Yeah, it would require a difference of a whole nother placement. So like Quadrant would have to miss out on semis, and the team trying to pass them would have to make semis. And there are
Right.
so many teams people could draw. At the moment people draw Oxygen or Carmine, like it's just instant L. Like they just don't move on in the bracket, in my opinion.
Yeah, kind of. But I think upsets can happen. Again, it's like regional one, but like I have more faith in I have the most faith in BDS out of all the top 8 teams. You know, like regaining and doing a better placement. And you should have the most faith in BDS. I think if you don't, then that's wrong. So yeah, we'll definitely see though. It could all change.
EU definitely stacked this season. Saw that on display this weekend.
Yeah.
But like, so I know we haven't seen it, but and you can put this in like the take vault. You don't have to answer, but I'll ask you first, Cam. Did it look like Vatira has made a major mistake by leaving so far? Because
If
he
he had
did beat
lost
his
the
own
moist,
team.
I would have said yes. But I mean the results always speak for themselves. Like his team went 4-1. And I still think he would have been better off just not leaving moist. Like, yeah, they had a rough worlds with that loss to Furia, but just hit the regain, go next season. They look like one of the best teams in the region and internationally at times. And honestly just broke my heart not getting to watch them play together. So not biased or anything, but I think for maybe not even for fans he made a mistake because Carmine's just such a massive org. And all the viewing parties they do pull so many viewers. I think it was a smart move by Vatira on
Business
almost
wise.
every front. I think he definitely made a smart choice, and it just is playing out differently than maybe what fans have wanted.
Yeah. It was a good decision. Like to join Carmine one as a French player, as possibly the most exciting French player coming up is I mean it's just stupid what that can do for your career. I think that I do believe him that the environment on this team will be a lot better for him personally. Not that it would be better for every player. It's just that the French buff on like an all French team, like I think they will enjoy playing with each other a lot. Um, I think that the old Moist had like a lot of issues with the like with between the players as well. So I just I think it was good for both parties, to be honest. I think it was time. I think it was time, to be honest. Even though they were doing amazing and the results weren't really dropping, sometimes it's bigger than that.
Yeah, it did seem like towards the end there was something definitely going on that was not entirely gameplay related. That maybe had a contributing factor, but I don't know. I don't think Vatira made a mistake. I think that he's a super talented player and he has confidence in himself. And sometimes when you get like that and you have an opportunity to come up, like you said, joining the French team, joining the French org, I don't
It
blame him at
wasn't,
all.
yeah, it wasn't handled well, but it was, I
So
think,
that's Rocket League.
It was all
good
over.
move.
Twitter timeline gets spicy sometimes in Rocket League.
Yeah,
It's all out there.
I don't know
yeah,
if there's been things in Rocket League that have been handled well. I mean, that's a really short
Yeah,
list.
we're not really good at that, are we? As
Yeah.
as a sport.
Roster moves, it's always rough. Player, it is the most stressful time you can imagine, especially like if you're
it
not
is, yeah.
super popular
Mhm.
amongst players, and like you're one of those players that just really wants to play and there's so many options. It's terrifying.
Yeah, and people always use the kind of, the not excuse or but the reasoning, it's just because it's a bunch of kids or a bunch of children. I promise you, put 25, 30, 35-year-olds under the same circumstances, the exact same things happen. Just because of the amount of pressure, the amount of careers are on the line, and it's probably even more scary for people of that age because these young players aren't having to pay their own bills. If you're an adult, of course you have to. You're probably going to be more concerned about your career and when you're ending up. So I don't like that. It's just because they're kids. It's just not how it works. But I wish it was better. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the point where like the older players are more likely to just put business first and like, oh,
Yeah.
no
Absolutely.
personal feelings, but like you're off the team
Yeah.
or I'm leaving because I got X offer and I'm just going to put my own personal like business interests ahead of team environment, team chemistry. Oh, we're friends, all that. All these like friends rosters are like, the younger players that came up together and practiced together. So I think that's a
Hmm.
really, really great point that a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah.
Um, Switching up a bit. I know we touched on it a little bit, but I wanted to talk about. I have kickoffs with a question mark written down for the voice series. And something I wanted to ask you, Jack, is, uh, when you guys are going for a kickoff, do you have a plan? I mean, obviously you aren't going to give away your game, but like, is it talked about amongst you guys like on kickoffs, before kickoffs, heading into a series, or is it just like you are responsible for your own kickoff, and we're responsible for our reactions to it?
No, we have talked about kickoffs. We Yeah, we have basically just one kickoff we go to. Um,
I have
it's
follow up for that.
yeah,
Have you
it's
seen the
just
one Clears and RW9 are doing in MENA region?
we actually tried that in scrims before, like we saw them do it. They probably tried it more, before us, but like we were trying that in scrims, and it does work out. Like I saw them did they get a goal out of it? Like I saw them get
Yeah,
one
I think
goal
they had
out of
like
it.
at least two. I
Was it more
think.
than one? Yeah. It could work more. We tried it out and we realized it doesn't always end up in that position, so we just stopped because it could be over aggressive. But it's definitely good. Yeah. Kickoffs are a very under kind of developed part of Rocket League for sure.
Definitely for threes, because in ones you see people mix up their kickoffs all the time. It basically like checks your opponent on if they're
Yeah.
focusing, and you don't really allow them to get into like this subconscious rhythm.
Yeah.
So it's just not utilized in threes because it can be a big risk. Because if it goes wrong, you might leave your goalie in like a 2-on-1 or something, or they go for a boost and then that's open for just a little bit too long because people will just aggressively cheat. If the ball accidentally kills the last second and nobody's there, it's just instantly a shot on net. So in threes, I think people just don't want to risk it. And I don't know. I know Johnny Boy talks about kickoffs all the time in threes. It's his favorite thing to harp on.
Yeah.
But I really wonder when we'll see the threes kickoff revolution and we'll see teams, like a lot of the teams like you guys have your bread and butter, one kickoff. This almost always works. It's safe. You may not score, but you're not going to get scored on. And
Right.
then you have a few that you can pull out to check the opponent to make sure that they're still focused and not autopiloting their kickoffs.
Yeah. I don't know. Like a part of me thinks that it will like be more developed, but then again, like I don't know how much it can be developed. Like I don't know. I've thought about it quite a lot, but I'm like, can it be, thought about loads? Can it be practice loads, and can it be replicated very, very like consistently in a tournament? I don't know. But we'll see. I think this season we could start seeing a bit more, thought process going into that.
Yeah, I always wonder when like purposely losing it would come into play more, or like breaking shortly before the ball and like putting it into a specific
Right.
spot, something like that. I feel like a lot of teams are focused on getting there super fast, or manipulating the ball when you're going supersonic. I just wonder if there's maybe an opposite side to that coin.
Yeah, probably. I'm not sure. Like like delayed kickoffs. I've seen Chronic
Yeah.
do a few delayed kickoffs and scrims, and he's scored like 4 times. And we've never really conceded, but sometimes he does it, and it just doesn't really work. But like, yeah, I don't know. The issue with kickoffs, right, is that because the way it is that one kickoff will work until the other team does something that will hard counter that kickoff. So technically, no kickoff is actually better than the other because every single kickoff can be hard countered by something else that the opponent does. So it's like nothing is actually better. It's basically just luck predicting what the opponent will do.
Yeah.
And that's what it could turn like in a few years. If Rocket League is, 10 years time, imagine if it's like come a long way, very close to the ceiling, let's say, even though it wouldn't be. And teams have multiple kickoffs and kickoff strategies. It would just be luck predicting which kickoff they go to and trying to counter that in the seconds. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, we'll see.
That's why I think the fake or something near a fake slash slowing down, not hitting it is the safer option.
Yeah, there is a kickoff I used to me on my first ever team, me, Dead Monster and Polar, when we were like top 20 Europe. Me and Dead Monster tried this kickoff where like on the double diagonal, you just both go back corner, and the guy in the middle just slow cheats and basically covers any dribble. And you normally get possession with like 250 boost for your team, like as a whole, whereas the other team usually only has like 200 or 180. So it's like you technically get more out of it, but we just never really had the balls to try it in tournament. So
Yeah, I think that's also a lot of it, right? Is teams are like, who's gonna be the first one to try it? Because you could
yeah.
lose series off of it, right? So obviously you don't want to.
Right, yeah.
In
Like
RLCS, it's
imagine game
yeah.
7, 3-3, 10 seconds left, and someone calls out a kickoff strat. Like you just like everyone is just gonna default to a regular kickoff, I feel like, in that situation. So will we ever see it come into like, high level, high pressure situations? I don't know.
I think
It would need to be
yes.
practiced quite a lot as well, though, because like
Yeah.
let's say you do a fake kickoff or something. There are 3 players on the pitch for that team that you happen to draw, and there are a lot of teams in RLCS who will react differently to seeing the fake. Some players are going to be focused. Like I know I've seen Garrett throughout the years. Anytime a fake kickoff happens, he sees it, and
Yeah.
like I swear when teams fake against NRG, Garrett scores on them like 80% of the time right out the gate, and it's a horrible idea to try to do it when Garrett's on kickoff. But with other teams, like players will just autopilot and send it exactly where you predict them to. So unless you practice it a ton, you don't know all the options. And who knows, maybe your strat
Yeah.
that you thought would get you possession, and they end up seeing it going past the ball, like back passing it to their team, and now they have the possession. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's definitely room for something there.
Definitely.
And I think Moist need to try it because they seem to lose pretty hard. I felt off of kickoffs against Carmine, and even if they didn't lose, like it felt like they were outpaced, like just visually,
Yeah.
like eyeball tests. They didn't show up this weekend, so it sucks as a team for that. But the kickoffs definitely made the margin way bigger than it would have.
Right. They were just being over aggressive with the kickoffs. Like you'd have one person hard cheating, which means he's following the ball very closely. One person takes the kickoff, and then the back corner, the person who's grabbing back corner boost turns forward, and you can have it, but like I think it's very risky to have a person who's hard cheating and a person who turns forward on the back boost at the same time. Like that can be quite risky, and I saw at least one goal come off that. So I'm sure they'll figure out. They're a team that's used to winning, so they're not gonna stay, not winning for a while. They're just gonna figure it out, hopefully.
Yeah, it's an easy thing for them to fix. It's not something
Yeah,
like super difficult and nuanced, and they have to like
exactly.
change their
Yeah,
play style around it. It's like just focus on kickoff. And yeah, just simple call outs on kickoff.
yeah.
hopefully Moist get that figured out. Otherwise, like I said, the eyeball tests they were kind of struggling. But a team that I thought, other than the semifinals, that looked really good, who I didn't expect, was Quadrant, who we not really talked about. Cash, Ixo, and Relating Wave. I thought I was really impressed this weekend by Ixo. I
Yeah.
thought that he had an amazing performance against BDS. And just as someone who I know who I've played against a lot over the years, I was just really happy to see him do well.
Mm.
And I don't know, what did you guys see out of this Quadrant team? They kind of came out of nowhere, I guess you could say, in the sense that I didn't see them being a solid top 8 team until the end. Now I've kind of changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
I
go
mean,
first.
um, we're not. Cash and EXO have had particularly high peaks at points in their career, but it's always been like a consistency thing for them. Um, I was honestly super impressed in the BDS series with the way that they avoided giving the ball away for free and just handing away free possession. And I saw lots of times where Wave would realize, oh, this position or this play we're setting up sucks. I'm just going to run the ball back to our half. I'm just literally going to drive the opposite way with the ball just to keep it away from BDS players. And I think it opened up Quadrant for lots of quality opportunities rather than just quantity of throwing it BDS. Monkey Moon saves it, takes it up to ceiling, passes it to Seiko, and then they get a free counter, right? BDS really didn't get to counter a whole lot because Quadrant were focused on possession and taking quality chances. And I think they were all playing super well. So when they did get those chances for like quality mechanical shots or solo plays, they really took advantage of it. And the bumps as well from EXO were incredible.
Yeah. Ixo just played like a whole different player. I mean, he's very underrated because people think that he did, bad on Luminosity. I think he was their best player from playing against them, scrimming against them week in, week out. For me, he was the best player on that roster for that team. And then in RCS X, he was on Monkeys, who for me again, he was the best player on that roster. Don't know how he got kicked. That was they completely threw. They were making RCS X EU Championship, and they kicked, in my eyes, their highest performing player on the team, and then bottled it completely and dropped out. And he's just been very underrated, and he's showing why that he still has it. Wave and Cash are very, very good players. Obviously, Wave's the most accomplished player out of the three. And Cash is a player that everyone knows, can be on a high level team, and he's shown glimpses of being really, really high level, quite a lot. I wasn't like, I wasn't expecting Ixo to be for me, the best player on this roster right now, and for Wave I wasn't like overly impressed with Wave. Whereas usually I think he's so good. I wasn't overly impressed with him this weekend, but he did obviously well enough to get them top four. For me, it was Ixo. I think he was so good. But I think if Wave plays like I know he normally does, this team can consistent top four. Like they could, because Wave can hold it down a lot better than he was. Like he's one of the most solid players in the game, and he didn't for me he wasn't showing the same level of that as that he can. But I think he will next tournament. I have a lot of faith in Wave. So yeah, Ixo was incredible, and they did a really good run. And Cash, Cash had quite a few highlights as well. He was good for sure.
Yeah, Cash seems to be like very consistently mechanical high
Yeah.
level, like a Jorius type almost. You're like,
Mm.
you have certain things you can expect from Cash, for sure.
Yeah.
Iso for me isn't as consistent with the mechanics in that level yet. I think if he can get there, I think that changes like consistently. Play like he did, that totally changes the dynamic. Sure. I could definitely see them like putting up a way better performance than they had this week. Just felt like they kind of knew that they didn't have it or whatever. It sort of felt like they knew that they were playing an oxygen team that just had it, and
Right.
they didn't.
Yeah.
Because no timeout, right? That was kind of weird. No timeout in that series, even though it was a sweep.
Mm.
Yeah, with
And
Was
two
it? Was it
back-to-back
sweet?
overtime losses and they don't call timeout, it's just
yeah,
weird. Maybe they
Eh,
thought they would regain.
It's because like when you're in that, so like I'll give like a bit of like my thought process, because obviously I've done this before. I've done it I think a few times where we just don't call the timeout, even though we just lose a series, and it's like, because let's say they lost game 1-4-1, and then quite a drastic loss, and then they lose game two in a very long overtime, 4-minute overtime, 2-1, And at that point, you go, oh, we've lost 2 games in a row. Do we call a timeout? And then someone usually goes, well, that was so close. We had a scoring chance multiple times. It was a very long overtime. I think we take the next one. And then you lose again in overtime and you go 3-0. Like, we're 3-0 down. The chances we best of 7 reverse sweep is very slim anyway. Like, let's just play our game. That's usually the thought process. And then you end up not taking the timeout and then just lose. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think they should take the timeout after game 2, even though it was a long overtime. Perhaps they had a few scoring chances, and if not after game 2, you just have to take it after game 3 and try and give yourself a chance. Because Rocket League's become the game where teams are getting more consistent. You can't just rely on, let's just try and play our game. Which I don't know what there was, thought process. I wasn't in the comms, but I presume that was kind of how it went a little bit.
So, do you think coaches, even if the players like we don't want to take a timeout, the coach after 2 losses should just most of the time call it anyway, like as just the
Yeah,
overall coach overrides Nasky's just be like, no guys, we're taking a timeout, and you guys are gonna listen to me.
I think someone has to do it.
Yeah, and it has to be before game 4 as well. I agree with that it shouldn't be, it should be after game 2. If you're down 0-2, it has to be that. I don't think you can wait till game 4 because the stats show now. I hate being, oh, look at the stats. I hate being that guy or whatever, but
Hey, being a stat nerd.
yeah, but if you win the best of 3 in the best of 7, you win. I think it's somewhere upwards of like 75%. So
Yeah.
calling a timeout down 0-3 is the way.
And it doesn't make sense to save your timeout as well once you've lost 3 games, because when you're reverse sweeping, you're not going to use your timeout. It's going to cancel your own momentum.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you guys. Is there ever a scenario you would take a timeout when you're up 2-0?
I
And be
like
like,
I was I think it was in the match against, was it, hang on, let me go to NA real quick. I think it was in the match against Space Station. We won. No, it couldn't have been Space Station. I think it was in the match against version 1. We won the second game. And I was like, do we take a time? Yeah, it was that game. I was like, do we take a timeout here? Because I felt like we shouldn't have won the game. And it was 1-1. We just won the game, but I felt like we shouldn't have won the game because we were getting we were on defense for a lot of this game. I didn't feel too comfortable, and then we just squeaked a goal with 20 seconds left. I was like, do we take a timeout? So I think there are some instances where you do take a timeout regardless of the series score, even if you just won the game. I don't know if we'll see it because it is a strange thing to do, but yeah, I think it's definitely a chance. Yeah.
And
It's
it
like
may
the
depend
quick
on the
option.
team as well, like how much people want to strat between
Right.
games. Some people don't want to talk at all between games, and they kind of let the coach do whatever. I guess I'm curious, how much do you guys on Gen G talk about, oh, like we should do this more, we should do that more, like between games?
We keep it simple. Lucian's a very, very good coach. I love his way of coaching. He keeps it very simple because he understands that not a lot of, well, a lot of coaches can sometimes struggle to understand that overcomplicating is very, very bad. Like, especially for Rocket League, like you can't just overcomplicate things. You have to just keep it simple. And we just point out perhaps one thing, and just try and work on that and focus on enforcing our play style a bit more than we had in the past game. Because we know that we're confident in our play style. If we play our style, we are confident we beat any team, and that's just how it is. So it's like, usually it just comes down to yourself.
Yeah, keeping it simple. It's the
Yeah.
right way to do it.
Do you guys watch replays a lot? Like in every week? Is it a weekly type thing for you? Is it only when you're playing bad? I've heard some.
Most
They're
teams
playing
do
bad.
that when they're just. Well, it's not perhaps when they're playing bad, but usually teams don't do it when they feel like they're playing very well. That's what it is. We've only done one replay session, and it was the day of the closed quals. We played the top 16 qual on the Friday, didn't go well. On the Sunday before our series, before our scrim, for our warm up, we checked some replays and was like, what can we do? Kept it short, 20, 30 minutes, and just straight into scrims. So it's like just a bit of a refresh, recap of, because you usually know what you're doing wrong. It's just a bit of a recap, and sometimes you don't know what you're doing wrong, and that's when you have to go in. But we hadn't felt like we needed to, do much more replay analysis. We're doing some on tomorrow for the upcoming week, because this week would be the hard preparation for the regional. So we're just seeing what we need to work on tomorrow. But usually you don't do it unless you feel like you have stuff to actually properly work on.
No, On Splice, we did it like so much. We talk about overcomplicating it. That's what we did. We got like so far into our own heads.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's such thing as too much replay
For
review.
sure.
And then you lose, like, everyone loses their sense of style. Like, a team just needs to pick like one strength that they have and maybe one weakness they want to shore up a little bit, and build like good routines and good habits and good practice habits with those in mind, and they'll improve over time.
Yeah. Yeah.
One last team in the top 8 to quickly touch on is Tundra. And shout out Cassio, who keeps getting his way into
Yeah.
these top 8 scenarios, despite me calling him not a mechanical player.
Cassio
love
permanently
Cassio
underrated.
Well, I just wonder, because
I do it too.
Because Cassio, like, what is he doing that is working so well on all of these teams? Like, he just keeps it simple, stupid, like we were just talking about? Or, because I feel like he's not mechanically...
He's a great enabler, I think. Like, he challenges,
Mm.
his timing is great. He rarely just makes random mistakes or like whiffs the ball. I mean, he's definitely like will make panic touches on defense like any other player, but a lot of the times he just has this really, really solid baseline that's easy to read as a teammate. And
Yeah.
I think because like he's got Raziers on his team, like Raziers is able to read Cassio, and the moment Raziers has the ball, that team gets really scary. Because I've been rating Raziers for a really long time, and so I think he's incredible.
Yeah. For me, Cassio, like, people harp on about him being underrated. Cassio fits into the category as a lot of players who people say are underrated. For me, is that so many people are saying they're underrated that they're like no longer underrated, right? But he's a good player. Like, he's not, for me, he's not amazing, but he's good. Like, he's solid. Like, he will just play at the same level that he can play at, and he'll do his thing, and he will have good shooting most of the time. And when he peaks, he's playing at a very, very high level. So it's like it's a solid, player to pick up. And from what I've heard, he's a very, very, very good teammate, and that's like very important for like a team's morale, team environment, and just confidence of teammates. So I think that's a very like useful thing to have. And then you've got Raziers and Rizex, who I think Raziers and Rizex link up quite well together, and I think Raziers is obviously the star of the team. He's the scariest player on the ball, as Kronovi said. I think he's just going to be one of the best players in the game at some point. So the team looks good. I just don't. They just don't have it. You know what I mean? Like, they just don't have enough to like break out of the top 8. That's all for me. Yeah, I just can't. I could never see them beating KC. Like, I said before the series, like they could, like, it could be close. I just see KC winning this. That's what I said before their quarters, and they just did. They just won. You know what I mean? It was like you kind of expect it.
Yeah, they're in that bracket of like 7 to 10. They just don't. Like, it's tough to just back them anything.
Yeah.
That upset potential also may depend on just not drawing certain teams. I feel like Europe has a massive case of rock, paper, scissors with some play styles. Like, Liquid really likes certain matchups over others. You saw it in the closed qual and then the top 16 qual and the closed qual. There were just some matchups that, like, team A beats team B, and then B beats C, and then C beats A. And maybe Tundra make a top 4 if they just draw their perfect matchup in the quarterfinal. They could draw Liquid. What if Tundra are really good against Liquid? We don't know yet.
Right. Yeah, I get what you mean. I just see, for me, I just see, like, if any of the teams in the top 8 were going to drop out of that top 8 spot, it would be Tundra. And I could see, a Monkeys and a Gary, or even a Sonic Solary. Well, we're forgetting about EG. Europe is stacked. Like, obviously we're on Tundra right now, but I feel like EG should have gotten further. Like, they were looking good going into this main event, and then they just dropped to 1-3. Like, perhaps I would prefer a top 8 with EG in there over Tundra, for me personally. But like, you can't argue. Tundra made it, and they made it 3-1, not even a 3-0. I'm just looking at their Swiss stage, actually, and it's like they lost to G1, fair play. Game 5, you lost to a really good team. But then they beat Guild, Sonic, Gary. Like, I don't know. Yeah, like but it's they're good. They're good, but they're not like amazing, right? Like they're not playoffs teams.
No, they're
Yeah,
below
they're all
us.
teams below them. Everyone else, except for I think Liquid, were the only other team that didn't have to play people that made top 8.
Right. Yeah, you're
Oh, no,
right. No,
Quadrant didn't get
Quadrant
wins
didn't.
either. Yeah,
I mean,
but
so
they're
like
3-2.
in NA we didn't have to play any beat any team. Sorry, that got a top 8. And it doesn't sometimes like if you're destroying the teams, it doesn't mean anything because like you're beating them easily. You can't fault the bracket. You can't like fault your own
Right.
team for having to draw bad or not bad, but like worse teams. But they 3-1, 3-0, 3-2. So I guess they did it fairly simply. I guess the 3-2 versus Ayagiri were playing well. I think Tundra are good. I could just see EG taking their spot in the next top 8 for me if I had to pick a team. But like Tundra could easily make it. I mean, it's the classic, underrating Casio in results wise. He always just manages to pull it out of the bag. So
Yes.
they could for sure, and they could definitely squeak a top 4 and be in major contention. Like Kronovi said, if they get a favorable matchup.
Yeah, Jack kind of answered what I was going to ask, but it was of these teams who did not make the top 8. Which teams could you see making their way into the top 8 next week? And out.
Yeah.
Thinks like I
Ayagiri should
really
have made it. They looking at their Swiss, it's so sad. They should have made
who?
it.
Ogiri?
Aogiri, yeah,
Yeah.
Oh
they
yeah.
were up 2-0 in Swiss, then they lose 3 game 5s.
They also played great against Oxygen.
I mean, they lost to two top 4 teams and a top 8 team. No, sorry, they lost to the winners. No, they beat the winners. So they had to play the first place, two fourth place in the top 8. I mean, that's such a rough run,
Yeah.
and it's all game 5s. I mean, like I don't know,
5
like
top 8 teams.
Aogiri looked better results wise, but for me, I think it's EG. I still think it's EG. Like
Be surprising for sure. That was a team that I thought was going to be top 8. And with the way Williams Resolve played, I had them kind of EG, Williams Resolve, and Quadrant in my like question mark. And
right.
EG just seems like a roster that's super talented, and I'm waiting for them to break through, and they just can't seem to do it.
Yeah, they last season they were like incredible in scrims, and they translated it into tournament for one split. Not quite the same level as they were doing in scrims still, but they were 7-0 in like every team in scrims. I mean, it was like for the most part of the season. At the end became a bit ropey for them, but like they've always looked good in scrims. So I don't know what it's like because obviously I'm not scrimming them anymore, but I can imagine it's the same. I don't quite know what it is either. They just can't. They just don't seem to do it in a tournament. And it doesn't look like they're choking either. Like that's the weirdest part. It doesn't look like they're playing terribly. They just don't do it. You know what I mean? It's weird.
Yeah, people were really. I know like fans were really rating the like Ryzek's move with Tox replacing him and saying, "Oh, this is the team that will get, or this is the player that will finally get EG to like back in LA form, essentially, which was the last time we
Yeah.
saw EG at a LAN." But I mean, I think maybe they just had a hard first regional together.
Did you
I
see them
mean,
making top 8 next week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they went 3-0, right? I mean, actually, if we look, I think
Yeah.
they didn't have the greatest of teams playing against them. But if we look in the, I think it was top 16 qual. Yeah, they went 3-0. Well, no, they beat Monkeys, they beat BDS, they beat Sonic. So like pretty good. I mean, beating BDS, it's a good result. So it's like they had a pretty good result. I think they can make top 8. Um, I would put them in place of Tundra for sure, but like I think Tundra could just be the better team, possibly this split. Who knows? Like maybe Reserves really is just that guy for them. So like maybe I don't know.
I mean, the clutch factor could be a big thing too when the pressure's on. Like, I don't know. I feel like Casio and Raziers are kind of like they have this clutch factor to them. You know, when there's high pressure games, they still deliver what they need to deliver to at
Right.
least like put up a fight. Like this was honestly the reason Semper were just this constant thorn in everyone's side last season. Was just because you draw them and you think, oh, Semper aren't that special, whatever, and then they put up this massive fight and you have to work so hard just to get through the bracket. And you're not really rating Semper as like a threatening team, but you still have to give them so much respect because of what they can still bring to the field.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think EG's definitely one of those teams. I think Williams Resolve is in there for the discussion. They had a great top 6 going. I expected them to come in hot, which is Sizen, Prime, and Stake, which is a team that I was like not familiar with heading into the season. Surprised that they fell to Sonics and Monkeys. Those are matchups that I would have favored them in. I thought they were a little bit better of a bubble team. I'm kind of surprised with them. Endpoint Guild, I don't think those results for me are too surprising. I didn't think is Guild Scrub's team.
No.
No, that
Guild is
Oh, that's Lewis' team.
Stake. Yeah, Stake, Hakro, and Lewis. Scrub is
Scrub
on
didn't make it to
SK.
this one, yeah.
They went 0-3 in close calls with Nas and Rai.
But one team I think we have to talk about is Solary, obviously.
Yeah.
I was rooting really hard for the DOP, trying to make it back in. And they've lost all 3 game 5s, which is a lot of game 5s in Europe this weekend. But the DOP got stopped, unfortunately, 3 game 5 losses, and I was really sad. I thought that this team had hopes. I wouldn't say top 8 hopes. Okay, I think that's pushing it for right now. Can they get there? I wouldn't doubt them. But 3 game 5 losses, they were close. I mean, they're 3 games away from top 8, so obviously they don't need too much of a change. But is it realistic to see them in the top 8 conversation again for this split? We'll just talk about this split, not the year. The rest of this split, do you guys
For
see
me,
them ever cracking it?
I think so, yeah. Like,
Really?
apparently, yeah, because I've spoken to, some, I can't remember who I spoke to. I think it was like English pros, and they were saying, like, the thing is with Solary is that if you're not playing well, they will beat you because, like, they're just going to be playing at the same level. They're a very, like, consistent team. Apparently, they're very annoying. Apparently, they're very strange teams to play against, and they will win if you're not on form. And I think that carries a lot of weight. I think top 8 is hard, but I think all it takes is to be consistent. But I think being consistent is difficult, and that's why top 8 is hard. But I think if a team can do that, like Solary, they will eventually do it. I mean, they should have. I hate always saying, "Oh, they should have won this, they should have won that," but I really do think they should have beaten Carmine Corp in the first round. They had it, and they started panicking in the last 10 seconds and threw the goal, in my opinion, on 0 seconds to tie up the game, and then lost in overtime. It's a pretty good goal, I think it was. So they lost that one. They went they lost to Williams Resolve 2-3. Could have gone either way again. Game 5s always can. They 3-1 Endpoint, good result, and lost to Quadrant 2-3, who we know they got top 4. So
2
I
top
think
4 losses.
they had 2 top 4 loss, top 2 loss, and a loss versus Williams, who finished in the same bracket as them. So I think they can. I think that they will get a top 8 at some point in the next 2 regionals, possibly. Yeah.
I mean, it's just 3 quality players who like have a lot of team chemistry together.
Chaussette played really well.
I think Chaussette. I rate Chaussette really highly. I don't know what you guys think of him. I just think he's really, really solid consistently, and he's also really unique on the ground, which I like a lot.
He does that when he's confident, and I feel like he's
Yeah.
very confident playing alongside K-Dop and Fairy Peak.
I
So
agree with that, yeah.
the old Chaussette that we love gets to show himself a lot more because he's just willing to take these risks, which because it is a risk to just constantly be slapping the ball on your hood and driving at people in threes. Because you could easily just lose a 50 straight backwards, and if people aren't ready, that's really bad. But he's confident enough to do it enough, and it honestly just like. Whenever he's dribbling, I'm getting flashbacks to DreamHack every single time. Even if it's like it's an open net and he's dribbling, I'm like, he's gonna fucking top corner. He's gonna fake it first. And I'm just like freaking out in my head. I love watching him play.
Do you think they could have a bit of like, not that NRG has it, but like NRG syndrome, where it's like these 3 players who used to be the best are now pushed outside, arguably like the best conversation, right? and now there's kind of this pressure on them, whether it's all in their heads or not. Where it's like we're not in the top conversation anymore. We have to get back in there. We have to prove ourselves. You guys think that that's a factor with a team like this or a
Not
team like
really.
NRG, or is that
I
a
think with
fan thing?
NRG it is. With NRG it is. I don't know why this team happened. I'll be honest with you because, like,
Solar, you're
yeah,
talking about, or energy?
sorry, because like they did actually pretty well, like 12th to 14th. Not amazing, but like decent. But it is weird that this team formed because I feel like Chaussette would have set his bar higher, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I kind of get the impression that this team was like, like we're mates. Perhaps we're not doing as well as we wanted to, even though Chaussette did, top 12 at Worlds, which is good. Um, that's just team. I don't know what. I don't know. Maybe they have synergy, or that's why they teamed because they actually thought they'd be like really good. But like, it was strange. So I think this team's a bit different than NRG because also NRG have, that really. I think Justin can still be really high level. Do I think Shusett, Therapy, or Caleb can still be really high level? Not right at the top. I don't know if they have much pressure on them because they're all friends. They're all really good friends. We can see that.
So
Yeah.
if Oxygen on a mechanical scale of 1 to 10 are a 10, how good mechanically are Solary on a scale of 1 to 10
Three.
The
as a team?
I'd say. Well, like, are we talking Joria's type of mechanics, like
Yeah, Oxygen are the bar to
flashy
meet
mechanics,
as
or
like
just
as
like?
like yeah, like because you need that offensive threat. I mean, you can just consistently wear down a team's defense, but
Because Solar have the fundamentals, right?
they
That's
they
not
have
up
the
for an
fundamentals to
argument.
just play solid Rocket League. But it would
They have
definitely
maybe the
benefit
best
them.
fundamentals as a
Yeah,
group total of any team.
yeah, but it would be really nice to see, like, I guess a lot more of the like a flip reset, double flip reset threat um on like have had like Kate Upper Fairy, like having that constantly on people. I think that would really like level them up, I guess. And so I know I'm thinking for like what a lot of the outside fans of Rocket League are asking, like, okay, what do Solary need to be constantly breaking top eight? And I think a lot of people are just going to say, oh, they just need more mechanics. Like these players just don't have as many mechanics as these other top teams like Moist, Carmine, Oxygen, and that's just the only difference.
Yeah, like kind of. I don't know if it was mechanics that like plagued them this regional though. Like I think it was more when it came down to the pressure. From what I saw in the Carmine Cup series, they also lost their other two series that they lost were game fives. So I don't know if it was mechanics. I think it was actually weirdly enough from three experienced players just being able to do it in the high pressure situations. Um, I don't know if how much I like rate like flashy mechanics. Like it's important, but I think you can win with fundamentals. So I don't know what it was. They just didn't get the game fives this time, which I think comes down just to more being able to do it under the pressure. I think they would benefit from mechanics though, but I still think that Chaussette, can be pretty good, like not terribly mechanically. Caleb Ferry, I don't know anymore, but Chaussette still has that little bit of flair that he can pull out, a pretty good solo play every now and then. So yeah, they would benefit from it, but I don't know if it was their main downfall.
It was just surprising to me. Maybe like to see them do almost as well as they did, which is really awkward to say. But three game five losses to two teams that were in the top four, and they were top 16, is not
Yeah,
something I really expected to be talking about a KDOP very peak Chaussette team. Not that
right.
they're capable of it, but just that they did it quickly and were in position to make top eight. I mean, 3 games go
Yeah,
the other way, they're there. So,
yeah,
they're not far off. And I do agree. Just from listening to Chaussette, um, a little bit, I was reading a translation on Reddit, which is not a good source of information, but
yeah,
he was talking about how, like, they talked about, composure struggles and replays, and they really determined. It seems like they are focused, and they have that almost militant approach to wanting to get back in.
yeah.
So I do think that they could get in there. I do think they could make it to the top eight. I think that's exciting for Europeans. Have that conversation.
Definitely, yeah.
But any other results you guys saw this weekend that you wanted to talk about from the European side in the top 16
Just like a
or
small point
outside the top 16?
about, well, just a small point about Endpoint really, because Endpoint I thought would do better in the Swiss stage of this regional, only because in the closed qualifier they actually went 3-0. They beat, who did they beat first round? Was it Goldbridge? Yeah, so they beat Quadrant first round 3-1. They beat Vitality, who we all know what happened, and then they beat Tundra 3-1. So they beat a top 4 team 3-1. They beat a top 8 team 3-1, and they beat an open qual team 3-2. So, um, not great in that second round, but it's still a win. So they had a good run in close qual, and then they went
Mhm.
0-3 in main event. They lost to Monkeys 0-3. They lost to Oxygen 0-3, and then they lost to Solly 1-3. So I don't know. That was a bit weird to me. I thought they could have had a few more game wins. I could see them going 0-3. 1-3, 2-3 at best. If they had a really good performance, 2-3. But like 0-3, I didn't particularly expect in such a disappointing fashion with only winning one game in the entire main event.
Yeah, I was surprised to see how them do so well in the qualifier Swiss.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, maybe I should keep my eyes on this team because I thought they would be like in the 3-1, 3-2 area.
Mhm.
And then they just once they got into the main event Swiss, it was just a completely different ball game for them. I mean, Solary put up 8 goals on them in game 2 when they matched
Wow.
up. Like it was that very last round was rough for them.
Yeah, and it's a team of Devo, Crispy, and CMAS, and not a lot of people know who Crispy and CMAS are. But like they're very quite naturally talented, up and coming players that could make a wave. So like I think that the team will be consistently making close quals and consistently making main events, to be honest. I think they will. So I think you've got to keep an eye out still. For me, Guild and Endpoint, yeah, they both finished 0-3. I guess Europe is so stacked. Like I don't know who else I'd
It's
They
put.
the
really
EU
are.
depth,
Like
baby.
I don't think I guess I was looking. I was going to say Guild and Endpoint. I think I could replace them going 0-3 with. And then I was looking. I was like, not really Williams because they looked good. Not really EG because they looked good at times. Not Solary. Sonics looks pretty good. Monkeys had a good run. Gary looked great. So it's
Yeah.
like I guess they are the weakest teams. But I guess if we look at the close quals, did any teams not make it who you thought would make it?
Vitality was the big
Yeah,
one.
Vitality is the
Vitality.
biggest
That
one,
was our
yeah.
next topic. It was
Yeah.
Vitality.
My
Um,
lights keep turning off.
yeah, I
There you
think
go.
Vitality is a good segue in. But real quick before we talk about Vitality, is I want to talk about Smokes. Because you are English Jack, so I'm making somewhat of a stereotype.
Yeah.
How familiar are you with Smokes, another English player? Because he's someone that I just became familiar with this week, and he seemed really, really good.
Yeah, so I played him quite a decent amount of rank twos. He's not like the highest level rank twos player, but whenever I get him in my games, he seems to like at least score one nuts play on me. And it's not that he's like outspeeding me or out mechanicking me. It's that he just like I think he posted 2 goals on Twitter and both were against me, and one of them I think was a pinch from his own half from like a ground and it just went top corner, and the other one I don't even know what it was, but like he does have these like this weird ability to score insane goals out of nowhere, and I did say that I think he could be like a really good player one day because he's pretty quick, he's pretty consistent. Perhaps he lacks the consistency in defense at times, but like I think he could be good. And they went what they go? They went 2-3. They actually got. Did they get reverse swept out of? Hang on, let me look. I don't think they did actually. They went.
I'm checking my
No, sorry.
stats.
They went 1-0. They lost. They beat Endpoint, lost Ergo, beat Resolve, lost to Auction, lost to Liquid. So yeah, the Smokes had a great first run. For a first showing, that's really good.
Yeah, I think that he's a player to kind of keep your eyes on this season, maybe a breakout season for him.
Yeah.
I feel like he's kind of was that type of player this weekend, so just something to keep an eye on. I think Monkey also, when you have a player like that and you put them with Mateen Narju, they have a high ceiling.
I
Not a
agree.
team
Yeah.
that you can take lightly.
Uh huh.
but they did kind of limp in through the close qualifiers. It took them all 5 games. They lost in game 5 to BDS, but then they ended up beating Solary, Sonics, and Top Blokes. So not the best results. I mean, pretty good. Not the best, because they did lose to EG and BDS, which are teams that we've rated highly.
Yeah.
So a little bit concerning, but I do think that eye on him. But
Definitely.
into the closed qualifier, we're just gonna jump right on the team vitality train. Because I wanted to ask you, Jack, could you play on a team where you knew you were getting subbed out at the end of the year?
Yeah, it's not particular that they know, because they don't know who it will be, but they know one of them will be, right? And that's just
Right.
like, it's just terrible. Like there's no other, word I can use to describe it. I mean, it's just awful. And I saw Radisson say, "Oh, it doesn't affect me," and then I saw like, other people saying, "Oh, it won't affect them," but it just does. Like it really would affect them, and I wouldn't be able to. No, absolutely not. I think I would have the worst performance of my life. Like it's just not a good environment to be in. And then you'll see fans go, "Yeah, but you're professionals. You meant to handle it." Nah, mate. Like no professional. Like it's just not a good environment. Terrible. I think just team to be in right now. Yeah,
It plays on your subconscious.
absolutely. Yeah,
The moment you stop performing, even if you've been playing good all week, you have like one bad day in scrims, like it's going to be there. And you
yeah,
can fight it as much as you want, but other players on teams that just have 3 people on their roster don't have to fight anything. They know their spot is secure.
yeah,
So you're just strictly at a disadvantage.
yeah.
What about the argument that's like, oh, well, if you have someone who is good that you know is coming in, then it'll motivate you to be at the top of your game all season?
It doesn't matter. Like it's just not how it works. Like negativity always out rides positivity. Like that's just how we work as or most of us work as people. Like negative situations will always feel worse or like feel more strongly than positive ones, right? So it's like
Hmm.
it will be affecting them more negatively than it would positively, and that will play a bigger part than it was if it motivated them. It just does not matter about the motivation. They're going to be, I don't know. Perhaps the players are robots and they're actually not feeling anything. But like, I think the results show something's going on. Like it's just a bad place to be.
Yeah, they'll have to tough it out. And then I wondered, like at the end of the day, it's almost like a lottery or roulette who gets replaced, once Zen gets old enough.
Well, if they
Yeah,
don't make this, does he even stay on the team?
he has
Well,
to.
Like,
he's signed.
There's no way he doesn't. He's really messed up, I think. I feel bad
yeah.
for him,
Yeah,
but
that's what I was gonna say, because look at what happened with the Evo situation in North America, where Evo signed to a team before the offseason and committed
yeah,
himself, then got replaced week 1. Which I don't even want to get into that. It's triggering for me, but I digress. And then you
yeah,
flip it over to the Zen side, right? And Zen kind of did the same thing. It was in the off season for him, but like he's committed himself to a year later. Like things change so fast in Rocket League,
it's really bad.
so fast. When you commit a year of yourself, when you're not even like, it's just. I wonder how much money. Well, I don't know if there's an amount of money that would allow me to want to do that in his position, but I just
I
feel
don't
like
know. Like, I can say that he's on a very good salary. Like, he's being paid a lot, like a top player would be being paid. Um, and that is an important factor. He's getting a lot of money for this just
even
to
though
stay on
he's
the
not
team,
playing, just
even
to
though he's not
clarify.
playing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, which I'm pretty sure is correct, and that's like it's important, especially as a young player. It's a lot of money for anyone, but like he also just loves Vitality. I think Vitality is a great org to be as a French player, especially as
Yeah.
a French player for the first org and their first team. You know, he's getting to team with his friends and Alpha, who was supposedly one of the best prospects of the game. It's like it looked like a good move, but speaking of Zen, he's just got hopped onto Rocket League. But he's just I don't know. I just don't like the move now because obviously in hindsight they didn't make the regional. They don't have any points so far. If they don't get top 8, no, sorry. If they don't if they don't put a good performance in the next regional, they may
We're out of
possibly not
worlds.
even they may possibly not even make the third regional,
Yeah,
So
they'll
it's
have to
like
go through like opens
But
and
you
stuff.
can't. It's invite
they
only,
can't.
right?
They can't.
Yeah,
So
so you can't.
they have to get enough points that will put them in the top 16 for the whole split to make this third regional. and I don't know what that'll mean. Perhaps probably
Top 8,
two
I
and
think.
I think top 8, but maybe a 2 and 3 would do it in Swiss. Maybe it would. It depends who makes it through closed this time and who flops and stuff like that. But like, I don't know. It's not looking good for Vitality, and Zen must be quite annoyed. I think Alpha gets replaced.
Interesting.
When does Zen get to play again? Is that
February.
next split?
February, spring.
Oh, it'll be
Oh,
spring.
that is a good.
It's two splits.
So he missed
Wait,
it.
oh, it might be
That's a good
winter.
point, Cam, because we don't. NA doesn't play until January
Yeah, no.
23rd, I think. Right? Is the next.
EU's
Open?
later, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and EU is after. So he might be able to sneak in like mid split. Dang, he benefits a lot from that break because the reason I asked is there a chance he leaves Vitality is because if they don't make top 8 here, right, then they know Worlds is out. His season is a waste. Maybe he
They could still make Worlds
for
because
a trade or
one. So there's a couple of points. Maybe they can still make it of like even if they don't do good at split because like you can just have really good performances in winter and spring because the points are more as the season goes on for like regionals for majors.
oh okay, I didn't realize they increased.
Yeah,
Wow,
it did last season, or it did the last 2 seasons. It should be doing the same this season. So that is a big thing. So they can still make it. I don't think it's any out of question, but like it is looking still a bit rough. But like at the same time, the other point is that he will not be able to leave. Like I promise you, they won't be able to like he will be so much money to buy out. Like every team wanted him, and every team was bidding, or a lot of teams were bidding for him, and Vitality won the bid, and they're not letting him go. That
invested
if
too much.
they will build an entire roster around, they will sell all their other games to get their roster around him if they needed to. Like they're not letting him go. Like he can't leave.
Well,
He
then
won't.
if you're Zen, you're not really necessarily worried about if your team makes Worlds this time around. It's your rookie season. You only get to play half of the season anyway because you weren't even old enough. You miss a split, maybe 2. You know that Vitality are investing in you long term. You just care about getting playtime, playing under the Vitality banner, playing
Right.
with other French players, and you're getting paid the whole time too. So
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you're
Yeah.
Zen, regardless of how well Vitality's doing right now, you still have this level of comfort in the longevity of it, as long as he's okay with being with the Vitality org for that long.
Yeah, I mean, any French player will be okay with being with Vitality on that, for a long time. Like it's the best French org out there, for sure. So, like, it's fine, and I think Zen is good enough to make any team a contender. To be honest,
he seems that good.
he is. Yeah, who do you guys think should be the one to go? Because someone has to. There's going to be a player that leaves. There's no way they keep Zen on the bench, even if they're getting top 4s. I promise you, they're not. They're changing it. If they get top 4s, they're changing it.
Yeah, I was gonna say ApparentlyJack was my pick. Alpha was my pick, but Jack said it, and it surprised me because I haven't heard anyone say Alpha yet.
Alpha out for Zen?
Yeah,
Has to
because
be.
I don't think and I know this is weird, but in Rocket League it has always come true. When you see people playing together on stream, twos, usually fast forward 6 months, it matters for some reason.
Zen and Sazen, and Zen and
We've seen
Radisson.
it.
Zen and Sazen always Q2 together. Zen and Radisson always Q2 together.
Yep.
Like they always have been for years. Like they've played other tournaments together. I'm pretty sure Zen, Sazen, and Radisson played tournaments and won tournaments together. And Zen and Alpha won't work on a team.
Yeah,
like,
it has to be
Alpha. I'm sorry, like I don't wanna start flaming players. I don't want to start like creating disrespect. But like he's just not. I don't know. He could be a great player. I think his decision making is horrible. Like in game, like he has great mechanics and still really good speed, but he's just. I think he's the biggest problem for this team. Like I don't know. Hate to say it, but I think he is. Someone has to be, and people will people. No one likes to be the problem, but one of them has to be, and I think it's Alpha, regardless of his history.
You've also created the scenario for yourself by being on the team, or the team has created this scenario for themselves by
of course
going at it this way, right? But I think
he plays. he plays like he doesn't use his team whatsoever. He doesn't. I don't know.
It goes all the way back to old Vitality, you know, with like
Yeah, and it's always
Paid
been
Up Fairy. There was occasionally just random moments where you're like, what is
Yeah.
happening right now? Like what is Alpha's thought process? You watch the replay and you're like, I don't know what's going on. There's this really funny Gibbs clip. It was like in a tournament, like an RLCS LAN maybe, and Alpha stopped playing for like the last 4 seconds of the game, and Gibbs was like hard flaming Alpha. Is like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. It's burned into my memory because I love seeing Gibbs like angry,
Yeah.
but but it's just like there are lots of question marks around Alpha occasionally, and when he's stacked up against, you know, Zen already being familiar playing with Radisson and Sazen, it's like, you know, what's he supposed to do? His foot's halfway out the door already,
Right.
and that's not going to make Vitality play any better right now.
No, it won't.
Like, are they even
Yeah.
going to be in it? Because at this point, they're not, right? So, is
They
that a
make it next
surprise or is that
regional.
standard?
No, they make it next regional. Absolutely, no question in my mind. This is clip this because like it'll be. I'll just laugh if they don't. I mean, I'm sorry to laugh at players and results because like no one likes to, but it is laughable, and it's only laughable for like a main reason is that an org as big as Vitality cannot afford to be in any less than top 10. To be honest, top 5. Like they're such a big org.
Like Real Madrid.
They can't. I don't know how long they keep this roster. I could see a world where everyone out rebuild around Zen in spring and set out for next season. Do a team Liquid. You know, they're just setting up for the season after or the split after. Just rebuild. You know, complete rebuild. And I don't know if I think I'd prefer that.
Yeah, I think that's up for debate after this regional if they don't make it. Because don't make it, you're not in the third one. You have to wait until February to play again anyway.
Yeah.
And you know, if Zen isn't comfortable after the results, he's your guy, then it's like, okay, well, now you can just pick up the pieces. But that's scary. That's a scary situation for those players. I would not want to be in that. Feel for them.
Me neither. Yeah.
Because they're great players individually, so hopefully they get it together. But if it's not Alpha, Cam, did you say who you thought it was? If it's not Alpha,
I mean, I think it makes perfect sense that you can't have Zen and Alpha on the same team. Even if Alpha's playing at his absolute peak, they're both doing the same thing. Like Zen needs to be built around, especially like young rookies that are as mechanical as Zen is. You don't want to be sticking him as third, constantly making saves. You want him on the ball. You want him with boost. You want him being able to make plays, and like be your main striker. So Alpha kind of already does that. I feel like that's always been his identity as a player, and you just don't need two of those on a team. It's difficult to make it work. Otherwise, you end up in a situation where you have two people constantly on the ball. The moment one or two of them overcommit, you get the torment situation, and he's just gotta lock it down as third, and you're just hoping and praying that he 1v2s or like Vatira, for instance, on Moist. Sometimes, you know, Rise and Joya would both go for something crazy, and Vatira would literally somehow deflect the ball downfield the whole way and buy like 10 seconds of time all by himself. I don't know how he was doing it. That was like at the LA major. He was constantly just keeping the ball safe all the way back. But I don't know if anyone of Vitality is really going to be able to do that with Alpha and Zen simultaneously. It's better to just let Zen attempt to like peak on two people and put two people behind Zen and try to feed him the ball as much as possible, at least while he's like in his very first season, just to get him comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying in the off season, I feel like whoever picked Zen up would. I didn't see it going the way it is though.
I just didn't think it was going to be this roster. I kind of said it. I didn't say the same thing, but I said that Zen most likely will be a world champion in the future, and it's an incredibly hard thing to do. You know, like like some of the most naturally talented players or some of those talented players can never win worlds. And it's like that's just the way it is because it's just difficult. But like I just didn't think it was going to be this roster. I mean, Vitality, I'll be honest, they had the opportunity to pick up Astral. Like they had him. Like he was wanted to join them. They had him, I'm pretty sure, and it just didn't happen because they chose not to because of a reason. And it was a big mistake. They could have had Alpha, Astral, Radisson right now, and Alpha, Astral, and Zen, or Radisson, Zen, and Astral. and that would have been far better. We wouldn't be seeing this, I
I
don't
think
think.
Alpha and Astral would really mesh well on the pitch.
I just perhaps they wouldn't mesh well, but I just can't see a team with Alpha and Astral and Radisson missing out on top 16. And I think that Sazen's an amazing player. I think he's so good. But there is a clear upgrade through Astral, for Sazen. There's no denying that.
Yeah, I think so.
And sometimes it's just too much of a skill upgrade it's too much of a skill upgrade to the point that it completely negates any problems that they have on pitch due to chemistry, because it's just making top 16. That's all they had to do to get better than their current result. So I think they would, yeah. They also had Yoris, but he backed out. Yeah, but that's him backing out, so they didn't really have him. So they didn't have him. They had Astral, and every party was wanting it, and then last second Vitality went, "We don't like something you did, so no."
I found out he was trash talking their decal.
Like
The Vitality.
yeah.
No. I know Vitality took an
was
L
that
in
decal,
in
by the
quals,
way?
and then they took an L online when they dropped the decal. I swear.
Well, that wasn't what they wanted.
Lots of people
right?
didn't like it.
Wasn't it
the
supposed to
best
be something
part.
different?
No, they wanted that. They were like, "Oh, we thought we hit the mark, but we our designers, we liked it, and it just didn't quite hit the mark with you guys. We
Leopard
understand
print.
that."
Leopard print decal.
They really thought they actually did well. Like,
what was the
like
phrasing?
Some
It was
Gucci next
we
level
were
fashion idea.
yeah.
And they
we're
just
proud of our
missed on it.
innovation. Where is
Yeah,
it?
proud of our what was it?
I'm
It was really
finding
funny.
it. It was the quintessential double down. Innovation is part of Team Vitality's DNA, which is fair. They want to do something different, and I'm glad that they're keeping it. They're not gonna scramble to make a new decal that people like. Yeah, they're not gonna backtrack on it, but at the same time, it's definitely not up everyone's alley.
They're doing a lot of things to get themselves in headlines. So if that's their plan, it's working.
It's working.
Yeah, perhaps they're 200 IQ. They purposely made a bad team to get everyone talking about their team, and they purposely made a bad decal to get everyone talking about the decal. They're the most popular org right now.
And then they're going to drop the team and then sign a whole new one in 6 months.
Yeah, because they're making so much money from all the impressions and the sponsors that they can get from this. It's like, this is crazy, 200 IQ, and then they pick up the next world champs. They buy them out.
And then just plug Zen in. GG's.
Yeah. Slap Zen in. Zen for coach. There you go. GG's.
Is there any 2 French team that's available right now, but it's...
Sorry, say again. 2 French
team
players?
With 2 French players, yeah. I don't know if there is.
No, there's not. No, Europe seems pretty... if there's a French player on the roster, they usually partner up with 2 other French players,
exactly.
apart from Casio. That's it, yeah.
All right, any other final thoughts for you guys before we wrap up real quick from the EU weekend?
I thought we really broke Europe down, which is great because I normally don't pay a ton of attention to Europe. I'm well, I'm NA and I've always been NA, so I follow it a lot more heavily than Europe, but this is probably the most I've looked into Europe since when I used to watch every region's RLCS and RLRS. That's the last time I really paid attention to Europe this much was back then. So yeah. I was really enjoying just all of the great insights everyone's had today. This has been really good.
Yeah, nothing from me. I think we covered pretty much every team in the top 16, basically. So yeah, we didn't talk about Sonics, but Sonics are just there, aren't they? Yeah, that's it. They're just there.
I want Metza to do well. I'm just a Metza fanboy. That's what I got on Sonics.
Same, yeah. Yeah,
they'll get there. I think
they will get there. Yeah,
they need
definitely.
Time. Yeah. But if you guys haven't, as always, shout out Jack. Follow him on Twitter. He was nice enough to join us on the show this week. And we appreciate it a lot, Jack.
Of course,
I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah. I was looking.
Post-game show thing rolling. If you have any suggestions or anything, feel free to let me know after. But I think that's it. I think we're all set. We're gonna wrap it up, everyone. And I'll get the VOD up eventually. But until then, thank you guys for watching. And we'll see you next time.